Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. Coming live after every single Jets game this season to break down all the action, get to your thoughts as a fan base, and air out everything. The Jets falling to the Steelers in a heartbreaking opener in what is definitely been an emotional reaction for many different reasons for the Jets. I want to hear your thoughts on this game. Again, if you want to jump to the front of the line, make sure your comment is seen. Use that super chat feature. It also donates to the channel to help us grow the program. The Jets fall 34-32. And I'm going to start off on the negative here. I'll finish with some of the positives because, yes, I do think there are some positives. I do know that AG has gone to the microphone and says there's no more victories, which I agree with. But here are my thoughts on the game, and there are a lot of them, ladies and gentlemen. But, of course, I want to hear from you and your thoughts as well. So this was a maddening game as a Jet fan. Because as a Jet fan, for the last 15 years, when can I have said this following sentence in a game? The Jets offense carried them and was not the problem. We have never really had to say that a lot over the last 15 years. But the offense, which is what we were all worried about, many of us, and including everyone around the NFL, thought that this was going to be a classic rock fight. This was going to be a game 17-14, 20-17. Oh, no, we were wrong. The Jets did something we haven't seen. They, for the first time since 1991 in a home opener, they did not punt in the first half. But yet this defense is a concern. And I will get into the defense. And there's some things I liked on this defense. But there's one thing I want to start off with. And usually I look at games and I don't try to put it on one player. And I don't try to look at one turning point. But there are certain games where that is impossible. Where there is a clear line of demarcation. Where there is a clear change of the game. And you had one player impacted. And unfortunately for the Jets, we know when it was. The New York Jets were winning in this game. They were winning 26-17. Steelers come back, okay, down by 2. But you're thinking to yourself, well, it's the fourth quarter. If the Jets get the ball back the way they've been running, they'll be fine, at least get a field goal, at least put this game a little bit more outreach. Nope. 3 seconds into the fourth quarter, Xavier Gipson puts it on the turf for the only turnover of the game, giving the Steelers a short field to score a touchdown nearly 40 seconds later. And I will say this, because I do think Aaron Glenn has shown accountability. He said in the post-conference today, we have to be held accountable. If you make penalties and you make bad decisions, you're going to be benched. And guess what? Xavier Gipson was benched after this. Arian Smith became the returner. But you know what? It's got to be more than that. This is a guy that many people in this fan base did not think deserved to be on this roster. This was a guy that we have seen drop the ball, not be able to hold on the football. And this was someone that we were concerned about all offseason. You had Jamal Pritchett, who looked really good on returns. And I get it. Kenny Nwangu, very good player. Unfortunately, gets hurt in this game early. But I look at this as a player you make an example of. This is a guy that's not a top 30 player. He is the bottom of the 53. He should be cut today. I'm sorry. But this one play completely changed the game. Because even if the Jets have the worst case scenario, a 3-and-out, it's still early in the fourth. They can punt it. And yes, the defense had their issues, but the defense was looking better in the second half. They'd have to go the length of the field. Xavier Gipson should be cut tonight. Should be cut tonight. Because that was a major swinging point. Because then the Jets were behind, and I give them credit. They take the lead again. But the Jets had not one, but 2 fourth-quarter leads that they blew today. And I think what was also the most frustrating and the most what felt like a Jets loss was that final Steelers drive for the field goal. which was you had two things that happened on that drive that I think are maddening. The first is DK Metcalf. The ball hits off his hands, ricochets up, doesn't hit a Jet player, doesn't end up with a Jet player or on the turf, but somehow bounces back into his hands for a completion. The Jets then push the Steelers back on a screen pass, take Boswell out of field goal range. Oh, it's only a 60-yard kick, and he drills it from like 70 yards. You're saying, are you kidding me? And then that last drive, I don't put a lot on this offense. This offense did everything right today. Garrett, that was a really difficult catch on Jalen Ramsey, coming out like a bat out of heck. Could have Fields maybe run a little bit more, sure. But I don't have issues with the offense. They'll be in my positives in a little bit. I will give them their flowers. But the negatives is Xavier Gipson should be cut today. I would go to that locker and say, hey, kid, good player. We're moving on. Because I'll tell you this. You can bring it back on your practice squad. You can leave him out for ages because tell me a team in the National Football League that is desperate to get Xavier Gipson, who's a guy that is a backup slot receiver who can't catch passes and a returner who puts it on the turf. Tell me. So the other thing that I was shocked with today was this defense, because with all the pieces this defense has, with Aaron Glenn's mentality, with Wilkes being a seasoned defensive coordinator, head coach, I thought this unit would be buttoned up. But the amount of blown coverages were disturbing for this Jet team. Let me separate two things because I think it's important. I think that there are defensive players that made an impact today and the ones that didn't. So let me separate the ones that I think made an impact. I thought the defensive line, the pass rush, for the most part, was pretty good. The thing I was disappointed with was, yes, this team blitzed. I would have liked to see more blitzes. I thought it'd be more exotic. But Will McDonald had a pair of sacks. This team got after Aaron Rodgers, sacked him 4 times. So I'd like to see more, of course. But it felt like the defensive line played well. It felt like Sauce Gardner did what we expected. Basically took DK Metcalf out of the games. The only time DK got the ball was basically when Sauce wasn't on him. Sauce, especially in the first half, like shut him out in the first half and followed him around. But if your name wasn't Sauce Gardner in the back safety room or the corner room, oh boy, it was a rough day. The tackling, Tony Adams was horrendous. Brandon Stevens can't turn his freaking head around. And my thoughts are the following after this game. Boy, I hope A.Z. Thomas is close to playing. Because what I'm seeing from Brandon Stevens, he ain't it. Yes, I know he had the pass breakup late in this game, but oh boy, he does not look ready. He does not look like a corner. That's your number 2 corner. And here's the thing. If Sauce Gardner is going to be this freaking good, which we know he's this freaking good, guess what? Smart quarterbacks are going to go to the other options, and that's what they did, and that's what Aaron Rodgers did, and he picked them apart. Absolutely picked them apart. This safety room looked horrendous. Everyone's just looking around saying, God, I hope the rookies are close. I hope Malachi Moore is close in this safety room. I hope that A.Z. Thomas is almost right in that corner room because the corners were awful. Even Michael Carter was horrendous in this first half. This defense wasn't like it was just blown cover. They were getting blown coverages everywhere. Like Steeler players were running around with no one around them. And I'm thinking to myself, I understand this unit hasn't played a lot together yet. I understand it's new schemes and concepts, but my God, like you have Steelers running around left and right, like wide open. I thought the run defense was solid. Do I wish they were a little bit better? Yes, but for the most part, I thought that wasn't a big issue. The big issue is this team couldn't get after Aaron Rodgers enough. They sacked him 4 times, but I thought they should have done more. This team came into this game wanting to control the clock. They did. They outgained the Steelers by over 100 yards. The Jets had 394 yards of offense. Steelers had 271. Jets had more plays, had the same amount of drives, had more yards per play in this game, and they still end up losing. Passing, Jets had 212 yards. Steelers 218. Rushing, the Jets had 182 yards. Steelers had 53. Steelers ran 20 times on the ground for 53 yards. Jets 39 for 182. But the big killer, the turnovers. Jets had the only one, and it led to a Steelers touchdown. It was brutal. Brutal. And look, I know some people will rip some of the offensive play calling at the goal line. I'd like to see that get better, especially on some of the fourth downs. But the Jets scored over 30 points. If I had told you on Friday that the Jets are going to score 30, you would like, this game's in the bag. And this offense looked prepared. This offense looks like they are scheming guys open. This offense, which has a lot of new pieces, and of course the offensive line got shuffled around this week, they didn't look ill-prepared. The first time OC looked great. The former defensive coordinator, now head coach, and the defensive coordinator that used to be a head coach, that unit looked completely out of whack, especially on the back end. Like, they were just not making tackles and just having Steelers players run around. It's great when you have Sauce Gardner take out the one, but you need this defense and you need these guys to step up. And look, some people are saying Garrett should have caught that ball. It was a vicious hit. I think he did everything. And look, Garrett had a great game, 90-something yards in that big touchdown. But this is incredibly frustrating. And look, I know if I was to say this, do I feel better about this Jet team today than 2023 after Aaron got hurt? And I looked at this offense, and yes, they won that football game, but I came out of that home opener going, now we have Zach Wilson for 16 games. This is going to be rough. This, I'm like, okay, they have a quarterback that can make plays. They have a quarterback that seemingly, and again, I think he's going to be up and down in the passing game. I don't think you're going to see this every week, but 16 of 22, highly efficient, 9.9 yards, 119 rating. I mean, Fields was great today. The running game was great. Breece Hall, 107 yards on the ground. This team, this offense looked great. This offense, look at the game plan. Look, the Steelers are one of the best defenses in the NFL, and the Jets did that to them. But on the flip side, this defense, man, woof. This defense was rough. Let me get to some of your comments. I'll get to some more of the positives out of this game in a little bit. I just want to weigh that out. But again, my thoughts, don't let Xavier Gipson out of the building without cutting him. And I thought this defense is alarming because it's not just the blown coverages. It's how bad the blown coverages are, how bad these guys are in position. And look, there's some answers that might come later this season. Maybe one of the answers at safety is Malachi Moore. Maybe one of the answers is A.Z. Thomas at corner. But in the short term, you're going, yikes. Like, this does not look good. And to be honest, I thought this team would be more aggressive. I thought they'd blitz a lot more, which was really frustrating. At least they played better than last year. I mean, I guess. I mean, last year was the blowout at San Francisco. I mean, I guess that's a silver lining. Butterfinger Gibson strikes again. Look, the reason he gambled on the extra points was there's two reasons, I think. Number one, Tony, is that they went for it twice. The second time they had to go to it, make it a 3-point game. If they get the conversion, at least a field goal. If you get the 1 point, a field goal still gives you a lead. So that's why they did it on the second one. The first one, I also think made sense. Again, he's from the Dan Campbell cloth. They're going to go for it on fourth down sooner than later. They're going to go for it. They're going to be aggressive. And the way the season is, I would be aggressive as well. Here's the thing with that. That to me makes sense because you have Folk miss the extra point, and you are giving the choice to move it to the 1-yard line. Analytics and everything will tell you have a better percentage to get that 2 points. And the other thing, too, is I think it's a bit mental. Like, if you're a kicker and you just missed a kick, you wonder if you're the head coach, did that get in their head a little bit? So I think that's part of it. I don't hate it. I actually was for it. I just want to see better execution. I just need better execution. Look, Tony, not a great look for Brandon Stevens. I mean, this is someone that this fan base and everyone that covers this team has put a big eye on, especially when this team drafted A.Z. Thomas, especially when they didn't bring back DJ Reed, which I didn't think they were going to anyways. But it's frustrating. And Ant, I don't know. I don't know if he's got incriminating pictures of coaching staff. I don't know if it's magic. I don't know if, he bought them nice press. I don't know. I don't have a good reason. I think the reasoning coming into this game a bit was, okay, he can be a backup slot. Nwangu's going to be our lead returner, but he's the backup. And of course, Nwanga gets hurt, and depending on how long he's out now, Gibson's the backup. Now, look, Aaron Smith, I'd rather give Aaron Smith a crack. We know how fast he is. He had a good return at the end of the game. I'd rather give him a shot at the kick. Maybe not punt returning right away, but kick returning, I definitely would. Goodness competed with less. It's funny. The penalties were still bad in this game, but they definitely were better. One penalty that really pissed me off was the John Simpson one at the end of the half. And I was pissed more at the refs than John Simpson. I actually liked that John Simpson defended his quarterback. Jalen Ramsey, that was a play where Fields had released the ball and he went for a headshot. And I understand that Fields is outside the pocket, but 9 out of 10 times, if a player is going at the head of the quarterback, that is a personal foul. But Fields didn't get that call. And I think that was a penalty. I'm like, okay, they're near midfield. Would I like to have another shot? Sure. But at the end of the day, I think it sends more of a message to this locker and to other teams. Hey, if you do that crap to our quarterback, we're going to come back and we're going to swing at you, which is an attitude that the Jets have not had. And that's really bothered me outside. This team didn't have a fight, and I like that. Again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line if you want to donate to the channel. And make sure that your comments gets in here. Glenn, this offense, they should have made the 2-point conversion. Wilson should not drop that ball. This is the Jets. No excuses. A loss is a loss. And, yeah, it's frustrating. Should Garrett probably made that catch? Probably. Should they convert? Probably. But also this defense shouldn't have given up 34 points. I'm sorry. This Jet offense, if you were to tell everyone on Friday the Jets were going to put up a 30-burger, you'd be like, okay, they're winning the game. This team is designed to win ugly, low-scoring games. And they got a great performance from their offense, and their defense let them down, which is completely frustrating. I was thinking about that, Mr. Magix. I will need to watch more of the film. The hard part with that is he could take off and go down the middle of the field. I think what he was hoping for with Garrett was if Garrett can make the guy miss, he can get out of bounds and stop the clock without burning the timeout. Because if Fields takes off in that situation, slides at midfield, the Jets have to take a timeout. Or at the very least, it's going to take 10 seconds off the clock to spike. So then you've basically taken a play away. And in that moment, I think he didn't see Ramsey hovering over the top. He saw Garrett open. And he tried to make a play, and look, he went for an open receiver. And I get the decision there, but it's also a difficult one, too. As a quarterback, if you're running, you're going to slide, and you're going to slide in the middle of the field. He's not going to go to the sideline because, A, that's going to take up more time, and B, you're probably going to get a blindside hit. So it's one of those weird in-between plays where it's a snap judgment in the moment. I think he felt that was the better option. Unfortunately, it wasn't. The Steelers have a QB that can only win against teams under 500. How pathetic Rodgers is trash. They made him look like he was in his prime today. It's not excusable. Well, the thing that really bothered me, Glenn, is I was hoping to see them bring more heat. Yes, this pass rush, McDonald, Jermaine had some good pressures, but I was hoping to see more exotic blitzes. I was hoping to see more pressures. I saw some linebacker blitzes, which were good, but I was expecting to see another corner blitz. I was expecting to see some more safety blitzes. I didn't see a lot more variety on this defense. That's what I was hoping for. And unfortunately, I didn't see that. And that's what's really frustrating. Again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. Make sure to like and subscribe so you miss any of our content. Give us a like, bash the subscribe button, and share. Again, you can always check us out where podcasts are available. It's something that Engstrom has to get better with, Mr. M. Jacks. You didn't like the short yardage plays. I they left some to desire. Some were good. The Fields rushing touchdown, the fake was really good. And again, this is still a first-time OC, first-time play caller. And again, there were some plays you'd like to see better, but the Jets also they had over 100 more yards of offense than the Steelers. This is a team that ran the ball for nearly 200 yards today. Like, I can't put too much on the offense because the vast majority of this offense did everything right. So I'm not going to, get too hard on this offense. I'm going to be a lot harder on this defense. You need to call better plays and not run it down the middle. Yeah, there's certain plays I would have liked to see, like the tush push, like especially with Fields. And again, I think this play calling is going to have to evolve with the fourth line too. And Glenn, I think you and Mr. Magic bring up good points. But again, Engstrom's this is his first time calling plays. So this is an area where we need to see growth. And yes, for the most part, the offense had a lot of positives today. The thing with this season is we want to see growth in areas. I want to see Engstrom become better at play calling as the season progresses. Yes, this is a frustrating first game with how the fourth down play calling went. But if that improves as the season progresses, that shows me that they're learning. That shows me they're learning from their mistakes. That shows me that they are adapting to what isn't working. Because my biggest problem is this offense, I saw more looks, I saw more motion, I saw more double back sets than I have in a long time. And how many times, too, with Robert Saleh or Adam Gase, when they needed a short yards, we knew it was going to be a halfback dive up the middle. At least there's some variety here. Tony, I do think this was Rutgers' best game, ironically. I do actually think that was his best game. Let's get to some more other comments. I'm trying to see who else made comments at the podium as well. Again, if you also, I'm trying to see, do we want to see like the Aaron Rodgers comments? I really just I'm done with it, to be honest with you. But Sauce Gardner, we put up 30-something points in week 1. Sorry, I'm just refreshing a little bit. Us as a defense, guys that have been here, we ain't really used to that. The offense putting up that many points says the defense needs to do a better job complementing the offense. Justin Fields on the bootleg touchdown said they didn't even practice that this week, but Tanner Engstrom told him to do that. So, look, that to me is a good sign from this offense where the coach is like, hey, we think this is going to work. Just run it. It's not in play set. Just run it. And it works. So, and look, there's still plays out there, but the Jets scored 32. Like, I love it's funny because for how many years have we complained this offense couldn't get to 20 points? How they couldn't get to 250 yards of total offense. And they put up they dominated the line of scrimmage. This team ran the ball down the throat. And to me, I was really encouraged with the offensive line. Yes, there were areas where I think they miss AVT, especially on the fourth down and the short conversions. I think a lot of these plays, again, I want to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to Engstrom because the offense was really good. Part of the thing, too, is this game plan that they've been developing the last 2 weeks had AVT in it up until Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So a lot of those short yardage inside plays, I think this team felt with AVT they could convert. Now they have seen, okay, we can't get that push with Myers at center. Tippmann, I thought, had a really good game, but with him out there, he's not going to get as much of a push that they're going to redesign the plays. And I will say one thing that really impressed me. The offensive line played well. Of course, 1 sack today. The one thing that really surprised me, and I think this is a very encouraging sign, is the left side of this offensive line with Simpson and with Olu. A lot of us, when we came into the season with Armand Membu, what he did at college, obviously with AVT's background and what we knew of him as a run blocker, many of us felt that this running game would just be run through the right side of this offensive line. What I found really encouraging was that this offense was running off the left side. How many big runs were off of Olu? Like the couple of the Brees runs that were going for 10-plus yards. Olu was getting outside and sealing off that edge. And look, this Steelers defense will probably be one of the best defenses that the Jets face all season. This Steelers defense is one of the not only most talented, but this is a physical group. This is a group that likes physicality. This is a group that if you punch them in the mouth, they're going to punch you back. There's not a lot of defenses like this in the NFL. And the Jets offensive line leaned on them for 4 quarters and ran the ball willingly, which to me is very exciting. Now, again, some of the play calling I think needs to be improved, but I do see this team making adjustments in that area. What alarms me more is this defense, because this defense, so many of these Steeler completions, it wasn't Aaron Rodgers throwing 50-yard bombs down the field. It was guys not in coverage. And I understand that this is a new scheme. I understand that you have a bit of a turnover with Wilkes and with Glenn, but my God, there were so many blown coverages today. And unless your name was Sauce Gardner, as a defensive back on that field today, you should have been absolutely embarrassed. Stevens with the brutal pass interferences. Stevens not getting his head turned around. Stevens giving up big plays. And I'm going to tell you this. I hope A.Z. Thomas can learn pretty quick and come up to speed, because teams are going to look at Brandon Stevens and go, Sauce Gardner that took out DK Metcalf, a true number 1 receiver, Brandon Stevens. Survey says Brandon Stevens is who they're going to go after. So those are my thoughts on a lot of this game. And again, let me get back to some of your chats. Again, super chat to make a donation to the channel and jump to the front of the line. All right, let's get to some more of your questions here. Drones. He was bad. I can't. He was bad, Drones. He was bad. And look, Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks the Jets are probably going to face this year. Again, I think he looks compromised still a bit in the mobility. But if he knows this defense weakness, he knows not to go at Sauce Gardner. He didn't go at Sauce today, if you notice. He knew, okay, I know that these new corners in this new system going to have some communication problems, and they did, and he torched them. And then, again, it wasn't just that. It was also simple plays, like Tony Adams on 3rd and 8. If he wraps up, get him off the field. Tony Adams had a bad game. I don't think outside of Sauce, what DB had a good game today? Michael Carr didn't have a good game. And I seriously think many Jet fans, and tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, many Jet fans, you know what they're thinking today? God, I hope that Malachi Moore is close. God, I hope Malachi Moore can come in and be an upgrade. God, I hope that A.Z. Thomas is an upgrade. God, I hope A.Z. Thomas is close to being ready, or they're at least looking to go to him soon, because Brandon Stevens was a liability today. And this is what's funny is, the young coaching staff, the inexperienced one on the offensive side, look great. The thing when we came into this season, and maybe it's a little bit our fault being Jet fans, maybe it's a little bit of our fault covering this team, where we just thought this defense is going to be good for a couple of reasons. Number one, you have a really good defensive coordinator that came in and is now the head coach. Number two, you have a defensive coordinator calling the plays that was not only a former defensive coordinator and a highly successful one, but has also been a head coach in the National Football League before. And you also felt like with this talent on this defense, and with how the Jets have pretty much, even when they are bad, have always been a top half of the league defense, that this defense would be good. But this defense, outside of the pass rush, the run defense I thought was good. I thought was solid today. Here's all you need to know. Here's all you need to know. Michael Clemens is usually the butt of our jokes here on this show and many Jets shows like this. Michael Clemens had a solid game today. He didn't do anything incredibly stupid, didn't have a dumb penalty, and actually did a decent job setting the edge. You know what he looked like? A rotational defensive end, which he's supposed to. Brandon Stevens is supposed to be this team's number 2 corner. He doesn't look like a number 2 corner. He looks like a liability. That is alarming. And like I said earlier, Xavier Gipson, I think should be on this team. I really don't. Rodgers ain't do much. They took short passes, made him long. You're right. Drones is right. Wasn't Aaron? People I know, and I know everyone won tomorrow, and I know on McAfee, everyone's going to gush about how Aaron Rodgers carved up his former team, how Aaron Rodgers destroyed his former team. He really didn't. He was just dumping it off, and the Jets defense wasn't covering. Like, Rodgers didn't push the ball down the field, A, because the Jets wouldn't let him, and B, because of this pass rush. So it's just frustrating. Yeah, the penalties up there as well. Again, getting a little bit better, but still. I mean, this was just a frustrating game because so many things that we are used to were basically role reversed. We're used to the defense not being the issue and the offense being the liability. The offense wasn't the problem today. The problem was this defense. This defense let this offense down. And they put up 32 points. I mean, Justin Fields threw for over 200 yards today. Like, I don't know what else you want from him. Like, I come out in today's game and I'm like, you know, maybe Justin Fields won't be the guy. There might be games this year where he will be ineffective as a passer. But I am excited to see what he can do in this offense. And I do feel like he gives this team a unique spark at the quarterback position. And I felt after today, I'm like, you know what? I feel like you can win games with this guy. I feel like this is a guy that you can compete in games with. The defense is the opposite. And it's going to be a big test because it's going to be the Buffalo Bills, who are a really good football team. And you have an MVP at quarterback coming in. You know, if the Jets, you didn't get to Rodgers, guys are running wide open. Bills have a lot of players that can get open. It's bad. And look, I do like the toughness that Fields showed today. I like the offensive play calling. There's a lot liked, but there's also a lot of concerns with this team. There's a lot of concerns. And I walk out today like the offense, it's nitpicking. It's clean up the fourth down play calling, and it's frustrating that they couldn't get into field goal range on that last drive. Other than that, they scored 32 points, looked really efficient, and ran the ball down the Steelers' throat, which is one of the best defenses in the NFL. This defense, though, this special teams, that's where the criticism's got to go. And for special teams, like I said before, Mr. Magic, it wasn't Clemens, it was the other defensive tackle. Trying to remember. They'll come to me later. But again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. Make sure to like and comment below. I'd love to get your thoughts. Breece Hall, offense was confident heading to the last drive. Had a few miscommunications between myself and the O-line. I think it would have been able to help us protect Justin a second longer. And look, like there's some growing pains with this offense that we knew about. And I do think that this is a great building point for this offense. But this was an offense that Breece Hall looked great today. For people that wanted to trade him, he looked spectacular today. And this big thing too is this defense. They didn't turn the football over, which is something we were hoping for. And the biggest play of this game was a turnover that killed this Jet team with Xavier Gipson. Aaron Rodgers, of course. I was happy to be everybody associated with the New York Jets. Look, with Rodgers, I'm at the point, he's, again, like Rodgers, I've said it before. I'll just give a short summary. Rodgers feels like the Jets wronged him. They didn't. They did everything they could for him. They went above and beyond for him. And, he's saying there were people in the organization that didn't think I could play anymore, so it's nice to remind those people. Look, with Aaron Glenn and this new regime, the big thing I look for, and look, he's going to mention on McAfee, but this is the last chapter with Aaron Rodgers. This to me is like, I just look at it and go, okay, the Jets moved on from Rodgers, not because they didn't think he could play football. They just didn't want to deal with the drama. They didn't want to deal with the circus that comes with Aaron Rodgers. They didn't want Aaron Rodgers to, and look, Aaron Rodgers week 1, great. He's 41. How's he going to look later in the season after taking more hits? How's he going to look in November? How's he going to look in December? How's he going to look against other teams? How's he going to look as the season progresses? So you know what? Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I think that adds to the frustration for Jet fans, because now you're going to have to hear about from Steeler fans. You're going to have to hear about on McAfee this week. You know, of course, Aaron Rodgers comes back into MetLife and beat the Jets. And look, it's frustrating. I wanted to beat Aaron Rodgers too. But look, it's over. He's not a Jet anymore. The Jets didn't want to deal with it. And look, Aaron Rodgers, did he take a pay cut? Yes. But the Jets also went out of their way to make sure to give him everything he wanted, and they did, and it just didn't work out. Now, I will say, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, one interesting thing was an inactive today. So all summer, and I've been saying this, is I feel Allen Lazard is going to be a Steeler. Well, wouldn't you know? Today, he was inactive despite being healthy. Many of us thought he'd be on the short-term IR. He wasn't. Oh, well, they're keeping him for his blocking. Well, he was inactive today. I have this feeling that the Jets are working with the Steelers behind the scene to basically trade him. I get the feeling it's going to be like what the Jets did with Harrison Phillips with the Vikings. It's going to be like a 6th or 7th round pick. It's basically we're going to put him in bubble wrap. We're going to do the gentleman's thing. We're not going to give him to you before the game because we don't want him tipping you off with some of our things. But I have this feeling, maybe it won't be this week, but it will be soon, that we'll get that news barb. Hey, Allen Lazard has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really think that's going to happen. If you guys don't believe me, you can let me know in the comment section. Give me your thoughts there. But, and look, Rodgers, of course, Rodgers is going to talk a big game. He's going to talk about like, oh, it's nice to beat the Jets. And, the Jets did a lot of great things for you. The Jets did, they went out of their way to really treat you. And look, you want a silver lining with the Jets? Dolphins and Patriots both lost. So I think you played a really good team today. I think you showed some good progress. But look, this defense needs to get cleaned up. This also too is just one thing I want to see too. Like we talk about accountability. Like one of the big things that keeps coming up out of Aaron Glenn and this regime is accountability. If they're really that serious about accountability, then Xavier Gibson shouldn't be on this team. That's how I love the show off. He shouldn't be on this team. Plain and simple. Should not be on this team anymore. If Glenn doesn't nip this in the butt, it's going to blow up and it won't be able to contain. Get rid of the weak links now. Yeah, I cut Gibson. What are you losing? I'd rather try Aaron Smith. You have Jamal Pritchett, who looks like a good returner. Give him a shot. You're not losing anything. You're not losing any sleep over Xavier Gibson. You're not. I don't see what's the reason to bring him in. I don't see what's the reason. I will say I was happy with the tight end usage. Jelani Woods, of course, was inactive today. I'm curious to see if he'll be active next week. Again, Essen Poole is also inactive today too, but don't forget they just added them to the roster. I'm curious to see where they'll be in the coming weeks. And the big thing too is the Jets are going to have a lot of work to do before Buffalo. And I think why this game is also a frustrating loss. Again, comment, super chat, jump to the front of the line. This first 4 games of the schedule looks very difficult for the Jets. I mean, let's face it, the first 3 games are against playoff teams. Steelers, Bills, Buccaneers. And then you have a tough road game in Miami week 4. So I think what a lot of people, and me, myself, were thinking this was the Steeler game was important because you don't feel great about the Bills game just because the Bills are one of these teams that, the Steelers are in a closer echelon to the Jets. They're probably going to be hopefully competing for a wild card. The Jets, I'm saying, are hoping to be competing for a wild card. And in some ways, I think that adds to the sting too, because you don't want this to be a situation where, God forbid, the Jets are actually competing for the playoffs and the Steelers have a tiebreaker with the head-to-head. But the Bills are one of the top teams in the NFL. This is going to be a difficult test no matter what. I think that this is going to be a difficult series. But here's the other thing I would say too. If you are a Jet fan and you are looking at the first quarter of the season, because I like to divide the season into quarters, I think the Jets likely are 1-3 after the first quarter. And yes, that's not ideal, but I do look at their schedule. I do think things get easier after the first 4 games. I think the Bills are a tough order, even at home. I think that Tampa is a very difficult challenge, not only because they're a good team, but you're playing in Tampa outside, 1 o'clock, 100-degree, 100 humidity. And also, you're going to be in your dark greens because Bucks have already announced they're wearing the white throwbacks. The game to me that I would circle is the Dolphins, because I think the Dolphins are the key for the Jets in a lot of ways this year. I think the Dolphins are a bad team. I think the Dolphins are the worst team in the AFC East. I also think the Dolphins are going in the wrong direction. And of all the teams today, the Colts basically took their lunch money and they made Daniel Jones look like a superstar. To me, if the Jets want to have a successful season, I don't think you're going to – if you could split with the Bills, that'd be amazing. But ideally, I don't think that's going to happen. You need to sweep one of your AFC rivals, East rivals. And to me, the Dolphins are the most likely candidate, because I think they are a beatable team. I think that they're a team that you can impose with this running game. I think you can keep them off the field. The thing I'm a bit concerned with now is the passing game, because the corners look horrendous today. They looked absolutely horrendous, and that's the big bread and butter for, it's funny because I was talking with Nick Shine. I was talking with Danger Zone on his show earlier this week. And again, love to hear from you in the chat, guys. You can always check us out wherever podcasts are streaming. Super chat to jump to the front of the line if you want to get on the channel. And again, if you were at the game live, give us your thoughts on the game. Give us the thoughts on the atmosphere of the fans after the game. Would love to hear your opinions. The big thing that we all talked about leading up to this game was we felt the secondary was actually one of the strengths of the team. It's like, oh, the secondary is going to be really good. The secondary is going to be really good. Yeah, one member's really good, and that's Sauce Gardner. But the rest of the secondary, not so much. Not so much. So, and look, this also, it felt a lot like last year. I mean, you look last year, this team had set a record, 6 games. They led in the fourth quarter and they lost those games, and you're trying to get rid of that same old Jets mantra, but you got to change it. You had 2 fourth quarter leads. You blew the first one, then you blew the second, and this is frustrating because if Glenn wants to change the culture, it starts with the little things like this. And one of the big things that concerns me is you felt that this defense would be buttoned up. You felt like the defense wasn't going to hold this team back. And you sit here looking like, okay, the offense showed a lot today. The offense showed a lot of talent today. The offense looked really good in certain areas today. But you look at this defense and you're like, okay, Will McDonald, Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Sauce Gardner, and Quincy had really good games. Jamie and Sherwood, bit hit or miss. But the rest of the secondary was rough. Brandon Stevens had a rough game. Michael Carter had a rough game. The safeties had a rough game. And look, I think what's the boiling point for this fan base too? There's always certain players that fan bases gravitate to that they either over love or over hate, but they also form very strong opinions. Xavier Gipson and Michael Clemens are the two that come to mind. And Gibson especially, it feels like a lot of people wanted Gibson gone last year. And the fact that he kept sticking around during camp cuts, a lot of people were like, why is he on the 53? How did he make it through? And many of us, including me, like when we looked at the 53, like he to us was the biggest surprise. We're like, okay, he's going to be cut. And when he was, you're like, Okay, that's different. I think he should be cut tonight, or at the very least, if this team does not want to cut him, he needs to be inactive next week. Now, again, is that the same as being cut? No. But if they go to him and say, look, you're going to be inactive next week, that is inexcusable. I mean, we could cut you right now, but we're going to make you inactive because you need to be held accountable. If that's the lesser, again, I don't like that option, but I would like to see this team make action because Darren Mooj and Aaron Glenn, like they say, they are built on principle and they are built on reaction. They felt the D-line and the run game wasn't good, the run defense, so they went out and they got key defensive D tackles right before the season. They pulled players out after bad penalties in the preseason. This is a play that cost you a game. I'm sorry, but you were ahead still. You had 2-point lead. Even if you go down and kick a field goal at the start of the fourth quarter, you take at least 6 to 7 minutes off the clock. You force the Steelers to have to go the length of the field to score a touchdown. And even if they do score a touchdown, you are likely within a 3-point game. You kick a field goal, you can still win the game, or you can at least tie the game. The game is still very manageable. But then you give up that touchdown. You give it up so quickly. And I also think that was a demoralizing aspect. It took the air out of the building because it was the perfect storm. It's a player that this fan base does not want on the team. It's a moment that happens in a key moment of the game, and it's a moment where we know how the fourth quarters went last year, and you just go, you got to be kidding me, not freaking again. I cannot believe this is freaking happening again. And it's like, of course, Xavier Gipson. And again, he's on the sign like, yeah, it's on me, it's on me, it's on me. Yeah, it is on you. You should be cut. I'm sorry. It's not fair, like for certain players, but that was absolutely horrendous. That was absolutely such a gut punch because you felt like today, like this offense deserved the win. You felt like this was a game where the Jets actually had a really good quarterback play. You felt like this was a game where the offense, for the first time in how long, was actually clicking. I mean, this was a game many of us thought, like, if the Jets scored 20, they had a good chance to win. They put up 30 and convincingly, and were controlling the time and possession. They were running the football well. They were having great play designs. But now we're sitting here afterward going, defense looked horrendous. Defense gave up the big plays. Defense couldn't hold it down. Defense blew the leads. Like the touchdown after the turnover with the fumble, that's a little bit different because it's such a short field. I kind of get it. I was hoping they could at least hold them to a field goal. But then the Jets offense gets the ball back. They go down. They get the score. And then this defense, once again, can't get out of their own way, can't get off the field. And then the big turning point, too, came with the field goal. Like, it just felt like, of course, this would work against the Jets. Because how many other times have you seen a pass go off the hands of a receiver, bounce off a defensive player, bounce off an offensive player, and then land in the original receiver's arms for a catch? Instead of hitting the turf, being intercepted, no, it's a catch. And then you bust the screenplay, you get into the backfield, you're like, okay, they've knocked him out of field goal range. It's going to be a 60-yard kick. He's going to be on the logo. It's going to be in MetLife, which is notoriously hard to kick field goals. And Boswell bangs one that looks like it could hit from 70. And my first thought was, the guy that's doing the field goal line needs to be fired because that was way off because he banged that one in. And then you felt, okay, can they get something going the last drive? It fizzles out. It's just frustrating. And I feel for Aaron Glenn because this is a difficult game to lose. And I think this is going to be a game nationally, especially as Jet fans, you feel you have to take tomorrow and Tuesday. because you're going to hear it on McAfee. You're going to hear the talk like, oh, Aaron Rodgers destroyed the Jets. So Aaron Rodgers had his revenge game. Oh, Aaron Rodgers looks great. Or the Jets look silly for getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. Look, the Jets needed a fresh start. Deep down, I think we all knew that. Deep down, it was, do we go back to Aaron Rodgers for a year? Like, if Aaron Glenn didn't want Aaron Rodgers, because I think he wanted a guy to be fully bought in, a guy that's not going to be all about me, the guy that's not going to go on McAfee every week, I just think it was going to be a good fit. And yeah, it's frustrating, but look, the Jets, the Jets had, it's frustrating because they scored 32. They have Pittsburgh under 300 total offensive yards and 220 net passing, and you still lose on a 60-yard field goal. Sorry, I hit that. The 2-point conversions need to be better. I agree with that. I know we've got a lot of those comments in there as well. I mean, this offense has looked as good as I've seen in a long time. And it's frustrating, too, because when you come into the first week of the season, too, we've had a lot of time on this channel meeting you guys through the offseason, through training camp, through the draft. And there's certain guys that come up throughout the offseason. And if you were to ask me which guys are talked about a lot, I'd say 4. The first one I'll mention, I don't think was a huge issue today, but we'll see as the season goes on. So that's Michael Clemens. The other 3 that you guys constantly brought up to me and that I also agreed with were Adams, Stevens, and Gibson. Adams, to be honest, was surprised made the team. I thought they really liked Clark. I thought that they were going to clear out the safety room with their guys. So, I mean, to be honest, him and Gibson were 2 of my surprise guys that made the team. Stevens was an interesting one, too, because Stevens they gave a ton of money to. They talked him up like they could fix him. And here's the thing. When you take a risk on a guy that's had issues and you give him money, and again, I think it's not necessarily the size of the contract, it's the length of the contract. And you look at it, and many of us also thought, too, myself included, maybe there's a chance they are moving him to safety because he's got that safety versatility. No, he's going to play corner. And we talked about Stevens ad nauseum, and then after the draft, when they use a top pick on AZ Thomas as a corner, many of us are going, I like the pick and I like the value, but, if they love the kid that much and think Brandon Stevens that much of a liability, why did they sign him that contract? And look, Gibson's had an issue fumbling the ball. He's had issues returning the ball. It just reared its ugly head. And guys like Michael Carter also didn't have a good game too. But it's like guys we didn't think are good enough to make this team or make an impact. The guys we were most worried about, it's like, okay, those guys reared their ugly heads. Adams had a horrible game. Stevens had a horrible game. Gibson had a horrible game. And again, it's partially because we talked about it so much for the last couple months. We have talked about how much. And, there's a lot of questions in this game too. I know people are going to question Fields. He should have probably run on that last drive, the throw to Garrett. Again, that was a ball that you don't want to put your receiver in that position. But overall, I can't get mad at Fields. Fields should have been in that position. The defense should have held. They should have been fumbling the kickoff. And, you would think 32 points would be enough. 32 points should be enough with the talent on this defense, but it wasn't. So that to me is what's really frustrating with this loss is as many good things as we saw. The offensive line looked really good despite losing AVT. The tackles looked really good, which is really encouraging. Garrett Wilson had a really great game today. Breece Hall looks rejuvenated. There's a lot of good things. Quinnen looked like he's back to his old self, and I think a lot of that's they got some big bodies around him finally so he can get those matchups. I thought Will McDonald looked impressive. 2 sacks today. I know Nick Shine was talking about that he expects a sack a game from Will McDonald. He's already ahead with 2. And Jermaine looks spry from coming back on the Achilles. But that back end of the defense, it is definitely a concern. All right, make sure to give us your comments below. Super chat to jump to the front of the line. Would love to hear from you guys again. Rich Sports Talk, we come on all the time after every single Jets game. We bring an instant reaction, our thoughts on the game, our thoughts on the week going forward, and our thoughts on how this team looked. This team, it's a frustrating game today. I think it's gloomy too, because you look ahead at the schedule and you go, okay, now we got it home against the Bills and at Tampa Bay. I still feel like if this team, because I'm still curious to see how the Cowboys are going to be by week 5. This team, to me, just be 3-5 is the goal by week 8. So you're at least in play. And I look at the schedule. I think Miami's beatable. Dallas could be beatable. Denver's going to be tough. I think Carolina could be beatable. It's frustrating too, because you look at this game and you look at how close, you look at how many different chances they had to win the game. It was really frustrating. But I will say, Armand Membu had a great debut, has struggling again. He's going against some of the best defensive linemen in the league. But you look for Membu today, 0 sacks, 0 hurries, 0 QB hits, 0 pressures. I mean, that's why you drafted him in the top 10. And this offensive line, I'll say the tackles look really good today. Again, it's a long season, but the offensive line looks really good. This is a season where we need to look at building pieces. I still think Quinnen is a building block. Sauce is obviously a building block. But when I look, Membu on 25 pass blocking snaps, 0 pressures, 0. Tippmann and Myers didn't allow any other pressures on the right side. Olu and Simpson had a pressure each. So overall, I thought the offensive line looked incredible. It's frustrating because you're like, how good are they about the AVT? But overall, I thought the offensive line good. I love the offensive play calling. But the defense, man, the defense is what's concerning me. And it's funny because I didn't think I'd be talking about the defense like this. I think many of you, like myself, thought this defense would be a strength. It's just one of those things where I just looked at it, I'm like, the defense to me is going to be a strength of this team. And there's still great personnel on this defense. But the hard part is you look back at this game and you go, man, the blown coverages by Stevens, Michael Carter's blown coverages, it was rough. It was not good out there. It wasn't good enough. Again, comments, super chat, jump to the front of the line, or if you want to make a donation, your thoughts on the game, your thoughts on the Bills game next week. Look, if I'm honest, I think it's going to be a Bills win next week. The Bills are just a really, really, really good football team. And the other thing I think that's frustrating too, and I think this is part of the thing with Rodgers that I think is getting overlooked. People, and I've already seen people on Twitter, Rodgers never looked this good for the Jets. Well, there's a very good reason for that. He has an offensive coordinator and a coach that he's listening to. Again, the Steelers had a lot more motion than Rodgers did last year. Again, I thought they still simplified the offense a lot, but you had Art Smith calling Art Smith's the OC. It's clear to me, at least now, he's listening to Smith. He's letting Smith make the plays. Maybe Rodgers will call some plays. But it was clear last season that Rodgers was basically the OC. Rodgers called the offense how he will. He didn't care about what the offensive staff told him. He didn't care what this offensive coaching staff wanted to do or who they wanted in the game plan. It was basically what he wanted to do. And for the first time, really in a long time, he's getting pushback. And you're seeing that, he was being put in a good position, being put in good short and manageables, getting good motions. I thought the play design with the Jonnu Smith touchdown was a really creative look. But that's a look that he would have never done last year. He hates motioning. He hates it. So for everyone that's saying, oh, it's the Jets' fault. No, it's okay. It's the Jets' fault because they gave Aaron Rodgers all the control. Aaron Rodgers basically took all that control last year. Where this year, he actually has someone in his ear tell him, you know what, maybe you shouldn't make all the play calls. But, I mean, look, this is a frustrating game. 2 dropped interceptions. Stevens, of course, one of them. The 2-point conversions. Look, the first one is an interesting one because I know a lot of people are grumbling about that. The second one they needed to go for. Here's my thoughts on the first one. On that play, when you get that free gift, basically, of you can get the ball on the 1-yard line, you take that risk. Every analytics will tell you take that risk. So many teams will take that no matter what time of game because they're like, we're never going to get this good of an opportunity again. You hate it because they didn't convert. But again, that's the right call. And if you don't like it, well, I got news for you. Dan Campbell loved to gamble. Aaron Glenn, I think, will love to gamble. If it's close, they're going to go for it. They are definitely going to go for it if it is a manageable down. You know, the big thing I come out of this game, and I think a lot of things we look for is what are our biggest concerns moving forward? I feel good about the O-line. I feel good about the offense. I feel pretty good about the quarterback. I feel good about the offensive staff. I feel good about the pass rush and the defensive line. And I feel really good about Sauce Gardner. But what really concerns me is the number 2 corner on this team. Because this was a team that I look at it and I go, okay, they put all this money to Brandon Stevens. You had a really good corner in DJ Reed, but this is going to be an issue. And I will also say, I think the staff might have known that because if they were 100% sold on Brandon Stevens, you can't tell me they're drafting A.Z. Thomas. As good as the value was for A.Z. Thomas, I think deep down they're like, we think Stevens can make these changes, but just in case, let's hedge our bets. And we talk, and again, I got some good comments coming through. I promise I'll get to you in a sec. Super chat to jump to the front of the line. I will say this. If A.Z. Thomas becomes a good number 2 on this team, then we'll look back on this and be like, you know what? It was a transition. But this was a position, the corner position, we walked in, we thought Aaron Glenn, a former cornerback, Steve Wilkes in this defense, they're going to have a lot of fun developing these corners. And especially at the preseason, I thought Quantez Stiggers had some nice flashes at the corner position. I think some of these players had nice flashes. Stevens looked downright awful, and Michael Carter looked terrible. And Carter, to me, is another big concern. But I'll start with Stevens. Stevens, and he doesn't have to be a great number 2. He has to be a solid. He just can't be a liability. And today he was a liability. He was picked on. He dropped an interception. He had penalties. He was getting lost in coverage. And again, we heard it in Baltimore. He doesn't get his head around. How many times today did he not get the head around, which either led to a penalty or a completion? The other one's Michael Carter. And Michael Carter, to me, could be an interesting player as this season goes forward. Michael Carter, if you remember, has been a really good slot corner for his career for the Jets. But a couple of things have happened. Number one, he gets the contract last training camp, which we all thought was a good contract. And we all agree he deserved it. But then he gets hurt and is not the same throughout the season, has a tough season. Now he come into year 2. He's supposed to be healthy. This is supposed to be a big bounce back year. First game hasn't exactly gone great. I'm very curious because this is a new regime. And whenever you get a new regime, they have the option to get out of contracts. And they also tend to go with guys that they want. So a big question will be, because I don't think Michael Carter has a lot of value, but will he be someone that could be on the chopping block at this season? He's still only 26, still a young player. But the thing with his extension was it doesn't kick in until next season. Now, money-wise, next season and the final season of the contract, he's going to only be worth about 4% of the cap, but that's even going to go down further because the cap number goes up. The Jets technically can get out of the contract in 2026. They can get out of it. They'll have $8 million in dead cap, but they save $13 million. So Michael Carter's another guy, too, that really has to step it up because there are some decent slot corners and guys we think coming up that could be decent on this team. And I also look, too, at Stevens. The Jets also have to make another assumption. Stevens has an out with the Jets. Stevens could go to safety. He's played safety before. If the safeties remain this bad and your best combination, like with the offensive line, was moving Tippmann to guard, maybe a possibility is moving him to safety for the time being and letting basically A.Z. Thomas come in at corner. Because I'm looking at the corner room, doesn't look great. I mean, I like Quantez Stiggers a lot, but I'm not sure if he's ready to be a full-time corner. The other thing, too, is they have to evaluate when Malachi Moore and A.Z. Thomas will be ready. Again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. Let's get some of your questions. Hostile Guy is in the chat right now. Let's get the Hostile Guy. Oops, sorry, Hostile Guy. I disappeared for a second. Let me get that back up for you really quick. There we go. I don't know why. The program is just a little slow today, kind of like Brandon Stevens getting his head around. Okay. I agree, Hostile. Completely an issue outside of Sauce. Also, last pass to Wilson shows JF1 is listening to the media. He should have ran that. He was there. I would say, I don't know if he's listening to the media, but as such a bang play, my one defense for Fields is this. And again, I understand if he takes off, he gets the first down, slides. But you have to remember the Jets had one timeout. I think in Fields' head, and again, this is a bang split decision second. I think in his head, his thought was this. If I can get it to Garrett and he can make a guy miss, he can take it out of bounds. And that is important because then it gives us basically an extra play. Because if I run it, we have to burn that timeout or we are spiking it. So now we maybe have one play or maybe one or two plays, but we have to get to the sideline and out for a field goal. And the other thing, too, is you have Nick Folk. And the good thing with Nick Folk is he's an accurate kicker. The bad thing with Nick Folk is he doesn't have range. He's one of those guys like you really have to get to the 30-yard line for a legitimate kick. So, for the record, I'm here in Jets Nation because I'm a Bears fan. I really believe JF is a baller. Yeah, look, I think he had a great game, Hostile Guy. I really was impressed. I love the poise. I love the play calling. I love his ability to run the football. And the big thing with Fields, what is going to propel him is his arm, because we all know what he can do on the ground. But what impressed me was the efficiency, the decision-making, spreading the ball around today, and also hitting the big play. I mean, the Garrett Wilson touchdown was a beautiful spot, had to throw it on a dime, hit it beautifully. Like, he needs to just be efficient. If he can hit a home run like that a game and be efficient, I'm not asking him to be a 70% passer and dissect a team with his arm, but he needs to be consistent. And that's why I think a lot of Jet fans were worried was the notes of practice. He's 1 of 5. He was 2 of 7 in a team drill. But if he's still consistent, you know, this will also be interesting too, because I am very curious to see how this defense is going to adjust, because they need adjustments. It's a frustrating loss. And I will say this for Jet fans, and I don't know why I keep on my mic, my apologies. Maybe it's my frustration boiling over. But look, Fields today played better than I think any of us anticipated. The mobility and the elusiveness is all something we knew about, but the ability to throw the football also was very impressive there today. The other thing I will say, too, is This should kill the Broderick Jones to the Jets because everyone wanted Broderick Jones, and Will McDonald was taking his lunch my day. And the other big one, too, which was a surprise, was I thought that Jeremy Ruckert had one of his best games today. I thought Ruckert did a great job blocking. I thought he had some nice catches in the pass game. So maybe there is something with Ruckert, especially now having the ability to play with his former college quarterback. And again, super chat to jump to the front of the line. And I would love to hear more of your comments and questions. Just need to get some, just take a quick drink for those of you on the podcasting side. But again, comments and questions. Jets fall to the Steelers 34-32. Offense looked great. A lot of positives in this game, but of course, defense was frustrating. Defense really struggled, especially in the back end of the defense. Safety was frustrating, but it's one of those things too. With if you're a Jet fan that's obsessed about Rodgers today too, let me put it this way: for the Jets, they needed coaching, and if Aaron Rodgers was going to impact who they got as a head coach, it was about coaching. Rodgers won today. And I know there will be Jet fans that said, told you so, they should have kept him, but here's the thing. Rodgers brought something to the table, which was his pre-snap judgment. He brought something that also helped too, but here's the other thing. Rodgers knows the Jets defense. Rodgers knows the weaknesses of this team. So I'm curious to see how he would do against other teams. But the other thing I would look at, too, is this. This is one game in a new regime. Aaron Rodgers was not going to be the long-term answer for this team, and we all knew this. The biggest thing for the Jets is they have to wonder if they have the right head coach. And we're going to have to watch throughout this season. Again, I like a lot of the offensive things we saw today. I do think there is more accountability with this team. But for Aaron Glenn, if he wants to win over this fan base, I think you're still going to have to see some things change. You're going to have to see this team be able to close out games. And especially a team like the Jets, who I think are limited in certain areas. If you have a lead in the fourth quarter, you have to figure out how to close it. It's simple as that. It's as simple as that, because I thought the play calling offensively was great. The offense should have been enough today, but this defense was woeful. This defense was horrendous. And look, the biggest play of the game was, in my opinion, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I still think the Xavier Gibson is the biggest turning point. It's one of those things, like, you walk out today, like, this team can do things with Justin Fields. This team can compete with Justin Fields. This team can run an effective offense with Justin Fields. But the other concern you walk out with is there are pieces we like on this defense, but there's a lot of questions, and they're not good questions. And they are questions you're like, okay, when we go against teams with some really good depth at wide receiver, when we go against teams that have really good number twos, this is one of those things where I'm like, they have to be able to finish. They have to be able to finish. And look, I understand that it is frustrating, but I'm excited to see what this offense is doing. I'm excited to see what this coaching staff will do with this quarterback, but there's a lot of questions. And again, if you have questions, use the super chat to jump to the front of the line or leave a chat below. We'll make sure to get to it. Would love to hear your thoughts on the game. If you were at the game, would love to hear about the atmosphere. Again, make sure to like, subscribe, so we make sure to get to as many Jet fans as possible. And also make sure to check us out wherever podcasts are available. I'll say this. This was an incredibly frustratingly fun game to watch. I think is the best way to describe it. I think there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to now this season. I have obviously questions, but the big thing here is Momo Adam coming in with the kiss. Many good things happen. I'm guessing Momo, the good old Steelers fan, Look, I think there's a lot. All right, Kev. This is a place to air your grievances, so I'm ready to hear what you have to say. Would love to hear from you. And look, my big thing too is, and I agree with Momo, Gibson lost this game. And I love what Glenn and Muji have done with accountability and making the necessary changes. But I think one's very simple. It's very simple. You cut Xavier Gibson. You cut him. The very, very minimalist is you tell him today he's inactive for week 2. I think you got to cut him. I don't think he should be on this roster to begin with. And especially if Nwanga's out for an extended period of time, I would cut him. You got to make an example. You cost us the ball game. Now, again, there's a lot of time in that ball game, but the whole momentum switched. And I think a lot of it, too, was you took the crowd out of the game because you had the crowd going, here we go again. Even if the Jets just kick a field goal, you take precious time off the clock. You make Pittsburgh go the length of the field. You don't give them a layup. And it's just so freaking frustrating because I do think Gibson lost game. I've said it here and I tweeted earlier. They should cut him before he leaves the stadium. He was doing interviews in the locker room. I would have said, you know what? Get changed, coming into my office, you're done. You're done. That's it. I think when he's ready, Kev, I brought that up earlier in the show. You better hope AZ's close. Now, AZ, of course, had some nicks and scrapes during camp, so he didn't get a ton of reps. But this is a big concern because we talked about it for months. We don't think Stevens is good. We don't think Stevens is good. Can he be good? And, this is incredibly frustrating, but I hope AZ's good. But I will say this, if Stevens continues to play like that, it's got to be a short leash. It's got to be a short leash because he was horrendous. Yeah. Where are all the haters that said to trade Breece Hall? I can't find him, Momo. It's funny. I was saying off season, look, the only time they're ever going to trade him is maybe at the trade deadline. But, man, it's hard to find them, Momo. I've been looking. I can't find them for the slightest reasons. Can anyone out there believe that Rocket Court and they really could get you? That's a good one. So, Kev, I would also say this. That, to me, though, I wasn't surprised with. I think a lot of people got on Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrom's decision to go for it, but here's the reasons why I think it was the right decision. Now, again, I don't agree with the play call, and it's frustrating they didn't get the 2. If you have the option to get up to the 1-yard line for a chance for 2 points, every analytic will tell you to go for it, and we see it all the time. We see the lines have done it, and we know the lines, if it's a 4th and reasonable, they're probably going to go for it. The other thing I'm curious, too, is you have Nick Folk miss that point after. And he's an incredibly accurate kicker. So I'm kind of wondering if there's an issue with Folk because this is a guy that's incredibly accurate. So for him to miss that was almost stunning. So I'm curious to see what his health is like. Adam O. Okay, sorry, Adam O. My bad. Adamo, by the way, thank you. But yeah, Ruckert had 2 catches today. I thought Ruckert looked good, especially blocking as well. The offensive tackles I thought looked really good. But it's frustrating because you saw a lot you liked today. And you feel like now you have a quarterback that you can accomplish things with. But you look back and you're going, Brandon Stevens is horrendous. I mean, he literally has a ball in his hands that he drops, and you're like, how does he drop that? And then the other big thing, too, is that last Pittsburgh sequence, I think is so, quote, Jetsian in terms of the luck. It never seems like this team can get a freaking bounce. You have the throw to Metcalf. Sauce perfectly puts his arm there, punches the ball up. The ball is airborne. It goes past Cisco, bounces off Jonnu Smith, and back into the lap of DK Metcalf. Every other team, that ball is picked on the ground. It doesn't go back to the original receiver. Then you have the Jets sniff out the screen. It's a 60-yard field goal on the logo and MetLife. And good God, like whoever was doing the graphics for the field goal line needs to be talked to, because the way he hit that 60, that thing would have been good from like 70. My God, he absolutely booted. But you have this like, okay, it's a 60-yard kick. This is a really difficult. Oh, I guess it's not a difficult kick. So that to me was just like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be freaking kidding me. Kev, Quincy should have been benched for one drive after he committed the roughing penalty. Yeah, I think he should have been too. That one's a weird one though, because yes, he hit him out and hit him late, but Quincy's a hyper aggressive player and he's gonna have a couple of those a year just from his aggression. So it's tough too, because you take Quincy off the field, what's that going to do? Like, there's certain guys you can take off and discipline, but if you really need Quincy Williams out there, I think you got to keep him out there. But man, this was just, it's a gut punch. It's frustrating. You don't love how it looks going into next week against the Bills, but here are the final thoughts I have for today. My final thoughts are this. I'm excited to see what Justin Fields can do. I think the Jets finally have a competent play caller, and there's a lot of things I like about this offense, especially the offensive line, how they controlled the game, because that's how the Jets have to win. The other things are this. The defensive line I thought played well today. Sauce Gardner played great. But the Jets have an accountability issue. They've had for a long time. They need to cut Xavier Gibson because that was inexcusable what he did today. Inexcusable. And more importantly, this secondary needs a massive adjustment. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's discipline. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's communication, but they were horrendous. If your name wasn't Sauce Gardner, the back end of this defense was absolutely horrendous today. There's no excuse for how bad they were. And you have to wonder as a Jet fan, I think many of you have, but this was my thought leaving today. God, I hope Malachi Moore and I hope A.C. Thomas are close. And I hope that they are an improvement, because what I'm seeing right now at the safety position and the corner position is concerning. And it's not just your number 2 corner. The number 3 corner, Michael Carter, who we thought was set in stone, really struggled. He had probably one of his worst games. And I also look at it too. This is a guy that the Jets are paying to be one of the premier slot corners, and he was horrendous. And I'm curious, and I brought up early in the show, is there a chance he's not part of the long-term build? Because they can get out of that contract at the end of this year. They have to take some dead money, but don't forget, new regime, new players. But we'll see. My biggest thing, too, is this. The Jets, I divide the season into quarters. I think that they have to win in Miami in a couple weeks. Would I like to see them upset the Bills and Bucs? Sure, but they have to get to the quarter mark 1-3. It's frustrating because I was hoping to get there 2-2 with a win today, but I don't think that's going to happen. But overall, there's a lot of good things today, but a lot of frustrating things that this coaching staff has to clean up. And if Aaron Glenn and this staff want to change the narrative and they want to change how this team is viewed, they got a lot of work to do, because there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of this day. But unfortunately, there's a lot of the old hallmarks that we've seen from previous Jet teams that have haunted us, including blowing leads in the fourth quarter and frustratingly losing close ball games that they should have won. Thank you for joining us for Rich Sports Talk. If you join us after the live stream, you always comment below your thoughts on the game. We'll get back to you. Of course, you can check us out wherever podcasts are available. And make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our Jets content. We are live after every single Jets game, but we also have plenty of Jets content throughout the week, and we will have plenty of great Jets creators coming on the show to share their content and give their thoughts and opinions about this staff and this team going forward. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. The Jets follow the Steelers in the home opener. We'll be back later this week, and of course, we'll be back following the Buffalo game next Sunday, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you have some entertainment, especially if you are driving back from MetLife. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. We'll see you next time on Rich Sports Talk.